Two guys, same salary, same savings. One buys a house, one rents and invests the difference. Every calculator says they'll finish almost exactly even. So we simulated the next 30 years 50,000 different ways. Real life kept picking a different winner, not because one investment was better, because of what each of them did when nobody was watching. For the first 5 years, though, neither one can pull ahead. Connor and Tyler are both 32, both earning $80,000, both sitting on $70,000 in savings. Connor wants a place that's his. He buys a $350 home, puts his $70,000 down, takes a 30-year mortgage at 7%. His payment for principal and interest comes to $1,863. Add taxes, insurance, and maintenance, and he's writing checks for $2,653 every month. He hates writing them. And on day one, closing costs took another $12,250 he'll never see again. Tyler signs a lease down the street for $1,800 a month, takes his $70,000, and drops it into an index fund. Every month he invests the $853 gap between what Connor pays and what he pays. On paper, Tyler just found a cheat code. Lower cost, money still in the market, no roof to fix. Tyler keeps his capital working. Connor hands his to a bank. Nobody expects what happens next. For the first few years, they're nearly identical. By year 3, Tyler's portfolio is around $118,000. Connor's equity, appreciation plus the loan he's paid down, is around $117,000. Two opposite strategies, and after 3 years, the gap between them is less than $1,000. But underneath, the way they got there is completely different. In month 1 of Connor's mortgage, $1,633 of his payment goes straight to the bank as interest. Only $230 touches the loan. Between interest, taxes, and upkeep, most of what he pays builds no equity at all, just like rent. So the next time someone tells you renting is throwing money away, ask them how much of their own mortgage went to interest last month. And yet, they're tied. Because Connor has an engine Tyler doesn't. Leverage. He puts $70,000 down, but he controls a $350,000 asset. Tyler's returns are earned on his $70,000. Connor's are earned on 5 times that. That's what keeps him level, even while more of his money burns. So if they're tied, why bother choosing? Because around year 5, something shifts that Tyler never sees coming, and once it starts, it doesn't stop. Two forces pull against each other, and only one of them ever rests. Connor's payment stays at $1,863, frozen for 30 years. Tyler's rent doesn't. It climbs from $1,800 to $2,138 by year 5, then $2,539 by year 10. So the gap Tyler was investing every month has been shrinking since the day he signed the lease. By year 10, it's almost gone. And while Tyler's edge quietly disappeared, Connor's equity kept climbing. Picture 2 bars side by side at year 10. Connor's home equity, about $237,000. Tyler's portfolio, about $241,000. Still basically even. But there's a catch you can't see on that chart. If Connor sold, commissions and closing costs would take $40,000 to $50,000 off the top. So he doesn't truly pull ahead until around year 10. Before that, selling would put him behind. This is the number nobody selling you a house wants to mention. It's what makes renting the smarter move for anyone who might pack up and leave within a decade. But here's where the whole comparison breaks. Somewhere around year 5, this stopped being a question about houses. It became a question about you. Every rent versus buy spreadsheet asks the same thing. Which one makes more money? On paper, it's close enough to be a coin flip. Run the 50,000 simulations with real market swings, and the buyer edges ahead more than half the time. Only because Tyler's outcome lurches up and down while Connor's stays bolted to the floor. But the calculator assumes something that almost never survives real life. It assumes Tyler invests every dollar of that gap every month for 360 months in a row. Through the crash in year 8. Through year 19, when his rent has passed $3,500 and the gap is already gone. Any channel telling you to just rent and invest the difference is handing you perfect advice for a person who doesn't exist. And this isn't opinion, it's federal data. Most renters don't consistently invest the difference. Part of that is simple. A lot of people can't afford to. That's an income problem, not a character flaw. But Tyler can afford it. The only question is whether he actually will. Picture it. It's a Tuesday. Connor's payment left his account before he woke up. He didn't feel a thing. Tyler's at his laptop, $853 ready to move, and there's a flight to Lisbon open in the next tab. He tells himself he'll invest double next month. And he means it. So we ran it again, this time replacing the perfect investor with a real person. When Tyler invests only half the gap, not because he's lazy, but because he's a person, the buyer wins 69% of the time. When Tyler skips the investing completely and just lets his original $70,000 ride, the buyer wins 84%. And now the part that turns the whole thing on its head. The disciplined Tyler, the one who never misses a single transfer, actually wins. Invest every dollar, every month for 30 years, and you beat Connor. So the answer sounds easy, just be that guy. Except we have 30 years of data on whether people are that guy. In the early 2000s, researchers watched what happened when companies stopped asking people to sign up for their retirement plan and started enrolling them automatically. Same plan, same match, same people. When they had to sign up themselves, 45% did. When it happened automatically, 86% did. The only thing that changed was who had to make the effort. So you're not really choosing between renting and buying. You're betting on which of those two numbers is you. And everyone watching this is quietly certain they're the 86%. A mortgage doesn't care which one you are. The bank never asks Connor if he's feeling motivated this month. It just takes the money. It works precisely because it never gives him the choice to skip. The math was never wrong about the numbers. It was wrong about the human. This doesn't mean buying always wins. There are times renting is provably the smarter call. If you're going to move within 5 to 7 years, don't buy. Closing costs going in plus commissions going out eat 8 to 10% of the home's value. Sell in year 3 and there's a real chance Connor lost money next to Tyler. And if your career pulls you between cities, the freedom to move can be worth more than any equity you'd build staying put. The question the calculator should have asked was never which investment wins. That part's a coin flip. The real question is the one it can't ask. Do you trust yourself to do, by hand, every month for 30 years what a mortgage does for you automatically? Because the calculator assumed you would. And if you're honest with yourself right now, you already know the answer. 50,000 different futures, and they all pointed to the same thing. The investment was never the deciding factor. The system was. Wealth isn't built by picking the perfect investment. It's built by picking a system that still runs on the months you don't feel like showing up. The calculator answered the question you asked. It never touched the one you should have. That's the Ben factor.